We've been explaining for a while, and we know you've been hearing, that all this sifting and sorting of life has caused you to create a vortexual version, a vibrational version. And most of our physical friends, even those who have been listening to us for quite a long time, they really don't accept the realness of this vibrational reality until it manifests. And so we talk to try to help you to sense the vibrational version, to feel the vibrational version. In other words, if we could get you to feel secure even before it manifests, it would manifest faster. Most want it to manifest before they feel secure. But that's going about it backwards. So if we can get you to feel secure, if we can get you to feel in love before the person shows up, the person will show up. But humans think they need a person to be in love with. And we want you to know you can be in love with an idea. You can be in love with the idea of a relationship. You can be in love with the memory of a relationship. You can be in love with that aspect of that relationship, and that aspect of that relationship, and that aspect of that relationship, which means holding it active in your vibration, and it has to then be realized by you. So this realization, recently, the way we are describing it to you, maybe to help you understand it, but since you sometimes don't accept the vortexual version, then the grid version isn't easy to follow either, but we're going to give it to you anyway. Everything you want is vibrationally gathered, all the cooperative components in your vortex, and it is ready to reveal itself to you. And the reason that we're using the word reveal or realize is because you are going to be the interpreter of it. In the same way that that sweet bird was the interpreter of a message from Jerry to Esther, there are interpreters all around that are ready to interpret the message to you. Humans, we're not just talking about birds. We're talking about experiences. We're talking about financial forces. We're talking about ideas that flow to you. There's all kinds of manifestation that occurs once the vibration of your grid, which means your practice day-to-day vibration, is closer to the vibration of your vortex. It just has to be, you see. And you've lived pieces of that. When you finally made the decision that you were going to do something different, that decision was your grid filling in. That was you having asked and asked and asked, getting the vortex going and going and going, and at a moment of little or no resistance, that determination came to you and you knew what you were going to do. Remember how clear you felt? In fact, you're still feeling sort of clear about it because you were wanting to convince us all of that turning point here and now. So turning points, you like the word turning points? Turning points are often the grid filling in with an idea that you are now ready for. It's not that the idea isn't there. It's that you're not ready for the idea. It isn't that you're not ready for the idea because you don't want it, because you do. It's because you're not ready for the idea because you're not a vibrational match to the desire. You're a vibrational match to the absence of the desire. Feel the difference? So you ready yourself for what's in your vortex by feeling better. And you feel better by leaving out the things that don't feel good and focusing on the things that do feel good. So it is this simple. Take the handful of things that feel good and just run them into the ground. Have you ever had a good joke that you just want to tell to everybody? Pretty soon you're repeating it again to the same people, and they're saying, dude, I heard that. I laughed the first 5 times. It's over for me. But you know how fun it is to get hold of something that feels good, that you can delight yourself and others with. Well, this is the same sort of thing. Get a handful of those things that are delightful to you and just play the loop again and again and again and again and again. Let it be your basis of traction. Let something that delights you be the loop that you play that keeps your grid in this high vibration so that what's in your vortex can show up now and now and now and now and now. And do you know what happiness is? Happiness is being in that place where you're the receiver of the right idea at the right time. Happiness is being in that place where something occurs to you at the most opportune moment. Happiness is being at the top of the stairs. You're getting ready to walk down. You don't know it, but your heel is caught in the hem of your pant leg. and you are about to take a header down the stairs. But the broader part of you knows that and gives you the inspiration to take hold of the railing. So when you go to move your foot and can't, you're stable. That's happiness. That's happiness. That's alignment. Happiness is moving in traffic and having an impulse to take this exit for no good reason other than you feel like it, or even taking it even though you didn't really mean to, because you turned your driving over to your higher power for a moment and you missed the traffic jam, or you missed the traffic congestion as a result of an accident. All kinds of things like this are happening to you all day, every day. But when you start deliberately being happy, deliberately beating the drum of things that feel good, deliberately discerning, deliberately molding yourself into better and better feeling places, when you do that deliberately and those things happen, now you have conscious awareness of it. If Esther had not had that conscious conversation with Jerry in the car right before she went to her room, the bird on the porch would have just been a bird on the porch. But it wasn't just a bird on the porch. She would have missed that if she had not been vibrationally up to speed. You see what we're getting at? So much of your world wants to chalk those kinds of rendezvous, coincidences, which is incidences that cooperatively combine. They want to call them coincidences in the attitude of luck or fate or chance. They don't understand that it's cooperative components coming together. In other words, people who are looking at things like that are wanting to call them happenstance, and we want to call them creation. And so when you get clear-minded like you are, and you understand how far you've come, and you have, and you realize how powerful your desire is, and it is, and then you deliberately focus upon the strongest desire that you have, which you spoke when you first sat down here, to be happy, to be happy, to be happy, to be happy. To be happy, meaning to be in alignment, meaning to be in control of my own thoughts, meaning to be in control of my own vibration, meaning to be in vibrational concert with the source within me, meaning to be in vibrational concert with everything that I put into my vortex, meaning right here, right now, being in alignment so that I will be the interpreter, the manifester, the realizer of the best that could happen in this moment. That's happiness. This moment, and this moment, and this moment, and this moment. It's not saving up for a vacation. It's not putting up with all this stuff. It's not going to work all week long doing stuff I don't want to do so that I can get some money, so that I can finally go do something that I do want to do. Because when you get there to do what you do want to do, you're not happy because you haven't been practicing happy at work. You're not going to be happy on that vacation if you're not happy at work while you're earning the money to go on vacation. Are you? Don't you get on vacation and don't you just complain, it's too short, it's too short, I don't get to do this often enough, my flight was delayed, the weather wasn't good. In other words, you can't get there from there. You get to happy from happy. Well, Abraham, that helps a lot. So you're telling me that if I get happy, I'll be happy. Let me write that down. And if I get rich, then I'll be rich. I'll write that down too. We're saying you got to find a little piece of it. You got to fan the flame of it. And you got to not keep spitting the fire out with things that don't matter. And after a while, you'll get that momentum going. And you'll feel happiness, not just sometime, but you'll be radiating it. And then when someone says to you, what are you doing? The reason that they're asking is because you've got what they want. Every single person that wants every single thing that they want, whether it's a material object or a pile of money or a circumstance, an event, a relationship, everything that everyone wants is because they believe that there is happiness in there. There's happiness right here, right now, if you're in the right vibration. You know it. Haven't you ever gotten into that zone, that frequency, where everywhere you turned, something good happened? Esther says that's what it's like hanging around with Barbara. She loves traveling with Barbara because it's happy everywhere. They walk up to a very controlling, very official at the airport. And she's barking at everyone. A man made the horrific mistake of letting his toe step over the line by an inch. And she put him in his place. Sir, step back. He did, and he didn't like it. And Esther thought, that was harsh and unnecessary. And Barbara, who refuses to focus on anything unpleasant, missed it completely. So when she got up there, she got a big smile. She got moved fast to the other line. In other words, she's treated like royalty. While this poor man was put into the dungeon. Get what we're talking about. In other words, you attract by virtue of how you feel. We know we've been taking a bit of long time here, longer than we promised at the beginning, but it's so worth contemplating. How happy am I? How happy can I be? How good can I feel? What's the best feeling thought that I can find right now? What's working in my life? What's working out? What do I remember that felt good? What's happening right now that feels good? How general do I need to be? You can always find something to feel good about. And when you do, and when you make that your habit, then the actualization of it, the realization of it, the manifestation of it is so pronounced in your experience that people will be flocking to you and saying, what is your secret? And you'll say, I'm happy. And they'll say, I know that, I can see that. That's why I'm asking you what your secret is. And you say, no, I was happy before I was happy. And they'll say, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. And you'll say, well, I purged unhappy thoughts from my experience by focusing on happy thoughts. Well, what do you mean? Well, I didn't actually purge them. I just started emphasizing the happy thoughts. I started making lists of positive aspects. I counted my blessings. I learned that in church. I counted my blessings one by one. And the more I focused upon them, the more that vibration was mine. And the more that vibration was mine, the more law of attraction put me in the vicinity where I could realize it. So life isn't happening to me, life is happening from me. I'm emanating the signal to which all life is responding. So when I get up in the morning, I decide, how's this day going to feel? I'm going to feel intuitive, I'm going to feel inspired, and I'm going to feel connected, and I'm going to feel vital and alive, and I'm going to feel happy, and I'm going to feel confident, and I'm going to feel kind, I'm going to feel loving, and I'm going to be at the top of my game. I'm going to feel innovative. I'm going to feel energized. I'm going to feel invigorated. I'm going to feel inspired, but I'm going to feel inspired moment by moment. I'm going to feel guided. I'm going to feel worthy. I'm going to feel deserving. I'm going to feel deserving of all of the goodness that has been taught to me all of my life. I'm going to feel deserving of that. And I'm going to demonstrate my deservedness through my happiness.
The hardest part of all of this, everything we're talking about, is one simple thing: making the time to do it. That's it. Making the time for your precious self to eliminate the people in your life and the things that you do just for a short period of time when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed at night, and you say, okay, what is the greatest ideal of myself that I want to be today? But listen, I'm not going to get up until I am this person. And you begin to wrestle with your limitations and overcome them. You know, there's so much talk in the United States about self-love. You know, people think self-love is getting a manicure or buying a sports car. That's not self-love, that's pleasure. Self-love is when you're sitting with yourself and you are working on overcoming your hardwired thoughts or beliefs or your emotional propensities that are connected to your past, and you are really working to overcome them. And right on the other side of your pain is freedom. Right on the other side of your fear is courage. Right on the other side of your sadness is joy. It's the same energy, it's just trapped in the body. And when you stretch yourself past that point and you break free from the chains of those emotional addictions, the side effect of that is called joy. And the body is liberated from that level of mind. And when that happens, there's available energy to create with. And so when you break through that, you begin to love yourself. You begin to respect yourself. And you begin to love and respect others because you see yourself in them. And now that you're free from it, you can understand them with compassion without knee-jerking in the same way. So the difficulty here is really making the time to do it. And if you began to think about a new way of being and you moved into a state where you said, I'm not going to get up until I am this person, and not only did you memorize it neurologically in your brain, but you allowed the thoughts that you were thinking to become the experience to the point that your body as the unconscious mind began to live in that future reality in the present moment. And when you got up, when mind and body were working together in that state of being, and you said, I'm going to maintain the state of being my entire day, and I don't care. Bring on the challenges because I want to test my greatness. And you did that the entire day. The end of your day, when you finished your day, more than likely you'd have more energy than when you started. The literal translation of the word meditation in Tibetan means to become familiar with. The symbol means to become familiar with. So if you're becoming conscious of or familiar with your unconscious self, to the point you're so conscious of your unconscious thoughts, so familiar with your unconscious habits, and so aware of your emotions that you would never let them go by unnoticed by you, that there's no chance for you to return back to the old self, to know thyself. And then if you became familiar with a new self, because you neurologically fired and wired it in your brain and you emotionally conditioned your body, and you were able to do it enough times, sooner or later, it would get easier and it would become more familiar to you. And you would be able to move into that state of being. By the way, a new state of being is a new personality. And a new personality is a new personal reality. One of the things about substances is that it actually helps to change chemistry in the brain and body. So there becomes a chemical dependence on it at that point. But the person who wants to change has to want to change. That's the first element. In other words, no one can make you change, but you have to find it in you to really see if this is what you want to do. And I've studied people over the last 12 years. Why is it that one person, an old-timer, can look at his x-rays and see a spot on his lungs, and the doctor will say to him, hey, George, that's a spot on your lungs. It's nothing now, but if you keep smoking, it will be. And that guy just takes his cigarettes, throws them in the trash, and he's done the next day. How do you explain that? He made the decision, and the decision was an experience, and it began to rewrite his chemistry and his biology. Hey, how can a person who moves into a state of religious ecstasy, a state of absolute faith, drink strychnine and not get poisoned by it? It's a decision.
Wow.
It's an energetic decision.
It's how powerful the mind really is.
Well, so people then who actually want to make the decision to change have to make the decision with firm intention. Once you understand the how-to, that you can't use your conscious mind to do this, you have to move beyond the analytical mind. And when you understand brainwave patterns and when you slip into a different state of mind, that it's easier to do it. Because most people then, 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a set of memorized habits and behaviors that become part of our identity or personality. So 5% of the conscious mind is trying to change 95% of what we've memorized, hardwired, become addicted to emotionally. So the person may want to think positively, but they've been feeling negatively and oiling those programs for the last 25 years. They may want a new life with new conditions, and as they use their conscious mind to focus on that, their subconscious mind, they've been programmed to feel guilty. That's mind and body in opposition. We have to begin to recondition the body to a new mind. So change isn't hard. It's just that you got to get the manual to understand how to begin to unlearn and relearn, to break the habit of the old self and reinvent a new self. Newtonian physics is about cause and effect. You and I wait for most people, they wait for a reason to feel joyful. They wait for a reason to feel gratitude. And when the event happens, then they give thanks. That's cause and effect. The quantum model of reality really says something different. The quantum model of reality says you have to change your mind and body, thoughts and feelings ahead of the actual event, so your brain and body are physically changed to look like it's already happened. So, if you begin to give thanks ahead of the experience, and your body, by the way, is the unconscious mind, it does not know the difference between an event in your life that produces an emotion or an emotion that you fabricate by thought alone. To the body, it's the exact same.
Okay.
So, if you could begin to move into a state in which you were giving thanks before it took place, and you could convince your body emotionally that that event already happened because you were in a state of gratitude, then you would begin to literally biologically change your body to no longer be a record of the past, but now, in fact, a map to the future. Because if your brain and body are beginning to respond neurologically and chemically, now you're moving into a new state of being. And if you can get up in that state of being, then what you did inside of you should cause an effect outside of you. So the quantum model says then that we have to give thanks ahead of the event. We have to move into the state of joy and change our energy before it happens, so much so that we're not using our senses to determine reality any longer. So if we're living by the emotion of pessimism, right, or depression or sadness, or the emotion which is connected to the past is actually filtering your perception. In order for you to begin to see possibility, you got to look at the thoughts that are creating that pessimism, that are happening behind the scenes of your awareness. You got to look at your behaviors that demonstrate pessimism or unhappiness, and then you got to look at the other emotions that are, generated from pessimism. And when you can observe those programs, it means you're no longer the program, you're the consciousness observing the program. And if you can become so familiar with the way you think, act, and feel, so much so that they would never go by unnoticed by you, biologically and neurologically and chemically, you would begin to break the circuits in your brain that are connected to the old you, because nerve cells that no longer fire together no longer wire together. And if you no longer signal the same gene emotionally, because you're no longer allowing those emotions to be created in the body, and you begin to say, now, let me think about what joy looks like. Let me begin to demonstrate optimism. And you begin to read about, say, Ernest Shackleton, who crossed the Antarctic and with all those men and spent 600 days away. And because of his optimism, he overcame. You began to think, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it. And then you began to plan your behaviors, and you began to modify them to produce different experiences that created different emotions. You would literally begin to reinvent neurologically and biologically a new self. But most people don't like to look in the dark place. They would rather turn on the TV or get on the cell phone and complain.
But awareness is 80% of the solution.
Right.
My point I have a radio show called The Aware Show,
Right. But my point is, you can learn and change in a state of pain and suffering, or you can learn and change in a state of joy and inspiration. Well, first, usually people wait till they've reached the point where they've broken down. I'm saying, why wait?
Right.
Why not just do it? Most people, as I said earlier, are trying to create some type of change in their personal reality, but they're still the same personality. We have to become somebody else. So if you were to sit down and you began to think about a new way of being, a new thought that would connect to a new emotion, that could drive you to plan a new behavior, and you reviewed that enough times, there's a good possibility that you would change your brain neurologically, and you would emotionally signal your body chemically to signal new genes to look like your brain and body already have the experience. The biological and neuroscientific model says it's possible. And if you could get up as a different person than you sat down, now, here's the key, and then to maintain that modified state of being your entire day, independent of your environment, something unusual should happen in your life. That's the law. So it's like this. Most people do a meditation, they have a great meditation, and then they spend the rest of the day in a state of judgment or stress. Just like eating an organic, healthy breakfast and then spending the rest of your day eating junk food. Right. The purpose of meditation is to prime the brain and body into a new state of being, to elevate your sense of self, so that the environment is no longer, you're not affected it. Actually, you've changed something inside of you, both neurologically and chemically, in mind and body, that now you're beginning to produce an effect in your environment. So I always recommend experiment in your reality. We are scientists in our life. Now when you say, I move through my day with grace and ease, and flow finds me, and I live in no time and accomplish everything, there is a biological effect that's taking place in your body. And as you begin to feel like what that would feel like when mind and body are working together, now you get up in a state of being, because a state of being is when thoughts and feelings are aligned. Now, You have to practice that enough times so that it begins to become familiar to you. But if you did this and you said, okay, universal mind, quantum field, giver of life, I took time out of my day to emulate you as a creator. So listen, if I'm just a child of God and I'm practicing this and experimenting, I got to know that you're real. So listen, if you've been paying attention to my efforts, show me a sign, but don't show me a typical sign. Show me a sign that I could never predict, that surprises me, that leaves no doubt that what I did inside of me produced some result outside of me so that I'm inspired to do it again.